Hello again and welcome to another Mordy and Glory Warhammer 40k video. In today's episode, we shall be casting our ever critical eye over another 10th edition datasheet. Now recently, as part of the series, we've been covering all sorts of different allies, and we've focused a lot on the assassins that you can take with your guard army. We covered the Eversaw, who's fun but not that competitive, the Vindicator, who's not fun and not that competitive, and then we covered the Calidus, who is widely considered by many to be an auto-include unit. But there is one last assassin that we need to have a cheeky gander at. A soulless abomination, a creature from the depths of nightmares, and one which very well may become an auto-include anti-meta choice. A bold statement, I know, a bold statement to be sure, but I am of course talking about the Culexus assassin. And so without further ado, let's not mess around any further. Let us scuttle right into today's episode. Let us begin, as per tradition, with a brief overview of this unit, doing a classic MG review, looking at the pros and cons of this datasheet, and then at the end, we'll get into some of the nitty-gritty detail on why I think the Culexus is going to become a much more popular choice in the tournament scene. To start off, let's go over the stat line. Firstly, we have a movement value of 7 inches. This is quite nice. You get an extra inch of movement, which can make the difference between getting onto objective and not getting onto objective. It does make the difference between maybe getting that engage or not getting that engage. Having more movement, even if it's just an extra inch here and there, does make a big difference. However, it's important to note that if you are looking for a fast assassin, then you might want to consider the Eversaw over the Culexus, just because the Eversaw does have that 9-inch move. But the Culexus having 7 inches is still very respectable. Toughness 4 makes it reasonably durable against light fire. Las guns and other strength 3 weapons are going to have to wound on 5s, but T4 still means that most bolters and stuff are going to wound you on 4s. Any kind of heavy weapon, even the lightest heavy weapons like heavy bolters, are going to be wounding you on 3s. So T4 isn't that durable at all. Just ask a Space Marine player. The 6-up save looks terrible, but don't let it fool you. You are almost never going to use the 6+ armor save. Rather, the Culexus, like all assassins, comes with a 4+ invulnerable save. You combine that with the 4 wounds, and like I said, you have a reasonably durable infantry model. T4, 4 save, 4 wounds. It's going to take more than a few stray auto gun rounds to take this guy down, but any concentrated firepower will result in him being killed. So the best way your Culexus assassin can avoid getting killed is by not being shot at. Leadership 6+ is decent. It means that more often than not you are going to pass those battle shock tests, and objective control of 1 is fairly standard issue for these kind of lone characters. Now the Culexus assassin's stat line isn't that different from a lot of the other ones, but as is the case with most of the assassins, the difference is not in the profile, it's in the equipment and the abilities. The Culexus comes equipped with the Animus Speculum and Life Draining Touch. The Animus Speculum is a ranged weapon that has a 24-inch range, 3 attacks, ballistic skill 2+, strength 5, AP -2, D3 damage. It's essentially a shorter range but slightly punchier heavy bolter. What makes this weapon interesting is the slew of special rules that it comes equipped with. Firstly, you have the Anti-Psyker 2+, which means any unit, any model in the game that you shoot at that has the Psyker keyword, doesn't matter how tough it is, you always wound it on a 2-up. It's also an assault weapon, which I think is one of the best rules in the game right now, just because it allows you to move and advance and still do actions like cleanse or deploy teleporter homer or anything like that. So assault's a really good rule to have, and it's precision. So if there's an enemy character around, you can try and snipe them out of the unit. That is actually very important, because one of the more popular factions that are going at the moment, although this may change with some rumored FAQs and balance patches, it'll be interesting to see if this video ages like milk because of this, but one of the more popular factions at the moment is Necrons. And what they like to do is have characters that give a feel no pain to a unit, and so being able to snipe that character out can make the overall unit much more manageable and much easier to destroy. It also has a unique special rule, Psychic Assassin. Each time you select a Psychic as a target for this weapon, until those attacks are resolved, change the attack characteristic of this weapon to 6. That's a big deal. You essentially double the potential damage output of this weapon if you shoot at an enemy unit which has the Psychic keyword. Now in melee, the Culexus decides to diddle you with its life-draining touch. I like to think that it does the Voldemort impression, I can touch you now. If it does decide to touch you, firstly you'll need to show on the doll where it did it, but afterwards it is going to hurt you with 4 attacks, a weapon skill 2+, strength 4, AP -2, 2 damage. But again, this wouldn't be an assassin weapon without a whole host of special rules, and it's got anti-psycho 2+, which combines with dev wounds for a lot of potential devastating wounds, and of course this is an assassin, so it has precision. Individually, the Animus Speculum and the Life Drain Touch look okay. If you combine them together, you actually do find you have a surprising amount of, on average, damage to attacks. The Animus Speculum will do 3, it could jump up to 6, Life Drain Touch does 4, so you're looking at between 7 and 10 AP -2, hitting you on 2s, damage on average 2 attacks. I feel like the Culexus really has the potential to essentially wipe out a 5-man intercessor squad or its equivalent on its own. Now that might not seem like much to brag about, but bear in mind that the Culexus is only 85 points, and that 5-man intercessor squad is going to be much more than that. For something to be able to, in one round, have the capability of earning its points back, maybe a bit of luck for it, but the potential is there, that actually makes for quite a good return on investment. But it's not just the weapons which have lots of abilities, the assassin has them as well. Firstly, it has Deep Strike, which is the same for all assassins, and it's got Lone Operative, which is also the same for all assassins, and then it has Stealth, which is not universal for every assassin. It may surprise you, although it probably shouldn't, that the Eversaw Assassin is not stealthy, and at the same time it may surprise you that the Calendar Assassin is also not stealthy. So the only 2 assassins which have stealth are the Vindicare Assassin and also the Culexus. This is actually quite a nice ability to have because it builds more into that defensive profile. Either you're not going to be able to hit the assassin at all because it's lone op, and if you do get within 12 inches of it, you've then got -1 to hit combined with that 4+ invulnerable save. It might just allow your Culexus to survive an extra volley. The big thing about Lone Operative though, and this applies to all units with Lone Operative and especially assassins because they're quite small models, they're relatively easy to hide, is it starts giving you the potential for some real fixed objective jank. This is something that I only recently learned when playing Custodes, but there's nothing stopping you from taking a Culexus assassin, or any of the assassins really, and putting them near the middle of the board and taking Deployed Teleporter home as a fixed objective. The Culexus can happily sit there like a Helldiver, doing the stratagems, throwing the Pokeballs over and deploying Teleporter homers every single turn. And with using this ability inside a guard army has some real evil potential behind it, because your opponent's going to have to get within 12 inches of the Culexus to then stop you from doing that. But if you're a guard player, you could literally dump 80 infantry between the enemy and your Culexus. And that's going to take them so long to chew through, and all the while the Culexus just sat there, just deploying those homers and getting you points. You could start combining this kind of horrendous tactic, and it is horrendous. We're at 9th now, boys. You could start combining this tactic with things like Cleanse as well, taking a couple of assassins. There's a lot of potential for it, and I actually want to explore it more in a separate video, but I thought I'd mention it here as, you know, we are talking about Lone Operative. Moving on from the core abilities, we get into the unique ones for the Culexus, and the first one is Abomination. You are an abomination! This model has the Feel No Pain 2+ ability, and everyone right now is collectively creaming their pants, except for it's only against psychic attacks. Damn your eyes! If it had a 2+ Feel No Pain all the time, it would be amazing, but it makes sense that it's only against psychic attacks, as the Culexus is, as you've probably worked out so far. Not a fan of psychers. Soulless Horror is the second unique ability, and this is an aura. While an enemy unit is within 6 inches of this model, worsen that unit's leadership characteristic by 1. or by 2 instead if that unit is a psyker. In addition, once per battle at the start of any command phase, this model can use this ability. If it does, each enemy unit within 6 inches of this model must take a battle shock test. I have to say, Soulless Horror, not a huge fan of, not really that bothered about it. Battle shock is relatively meaningless in Warhammer 40k 10th edition, and morale in general isn't such a big deal. So putting this all together, the Culexus Assassin seems like a reasonably durable character with some half decent damage output, although it's especially niche considering that it seems entirely focused on dealing with psychers. Now at the start of the 10th edition, this would have meant that the Culexus Assassin is an overly specialized unit, one that you could put in your list, but you might go an entire RTT, you might go a whole series of games not encountering a psyker and not really getting the most out of it, and that there would be better take all comers assassin choices. And this is still very much the case. However, the times they are a-changing, the wind is a-blowing, and I personally believe that the Culexus Assassin is potentially, I know I'm covering my ass here, but potentially on the cusp of becoming extremely relevant and anti-meta. And this is because of 2 very important changes that are coming soon to the competitive scene. Firstly, we have the fall of the Adeptus Custodes, and secondly, hand in hand, we have the rise of the Grey Knights. It's generally accepted that the new Custodes Codex isn't very good. We're not talking about the lore right now, that's not really what we cover on this channel, but we're talking about the rules. Custodes seem to have been nerfed, and nerfed hard. But here's the thing, Custodes are a very popular competitive army. They have a relatively low price point because they're very elite, you don't need very many models, and their paint scheme is extremely easy to do. If you've got 1 can of Retributor armor and a finger scoop of Astro Granite, you're 90% of the way there to getting your Custodes tabletop ready. And so with this potential nerf, there are a lot of players who like elite armies that are looking for the next faction. They want to move away from Custodes and get something else that can scratch the itch. Enter left of stage, the Grey Knights. Like Custodes, Grey Knights are an elite army that don't require a horde of models to get up to 2,000 points and get playing games quickly. Like Custodes, Grey Knights have a really simple colour scheme. If you've got 1 Rattle Can of Ironbreaker, you're good to go. And thirdly, and most importantly, Grey Knights are in the ascendancy. They are currently doing very well for themselves in the meta. Grey Knights recently received some much needed buffs to their Dread Knights, and you're starting to see a lot of them popping up, and it makes for quite a simple army to collect and put together. You just need 3, 4, 5, 6 Dread Knights, and you're most of the way there to your competitive 2,000 point Grey Knight army. As a result of these 2 things coming together, the Custodes going down and the Grey Knights going up, I think there is a chance we see a boom in Grey Knight numbers. And if that does happen, then the Culexus Assassin is going to become very relevant very quickly. Well, at least that's what I think. But of course, all of this is just like my opinion, man. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Is the Culexus Assassin too specialized, or is its time now? If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to smash that like button and also subscribe to never miss an episode. Would you like to know more? If so, then please consider becoming a channel member or patron. By supporting the channel, not only will you be doing your part, but you'll also be helping me create more content for your viewing pleasure and unlocking a whole host of perks. You get everything from a badge next to your name, custom emojis, but the big one is access to the Mordian Glory Discord server, an online community with almost 2,500 active members. It's always popping off in the MG Discord. We've got channels for army lists, hobbying, tactics, stories, and even a pretty spicy meme section as well. For all you greenhorns that wanted to see the Mordian Glory Hole, today is your lucky day.